Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's city council meeting. We have some familiar but newer faces in attendance. So if you haven't already, please silence your cell phones. And if it comes time to address the council, approach the podium, state your name and your address, and then your business before the council. Thank you. City of Anamosa City Council Agenda Regular Session, Monday, April 10th, 2023, 6 p.m. Anamosa Library and Learning Center. 1.0 roll call.
Trump,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
Houston,
Here.
Zumba,
Here.
Stout,
Here.
Humbert,
Here.
Note that all council members are present in chamber. 2.0 Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Three point zero, motion to approve the minutes from the following meetings. 3.1, March 27th, 2023, regular session.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Teresa. Does council have any discussion on the minutes as they were submitted? Public have any comment? Benny, will you please conduct a roll call?
Smith,
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Humbert,
Yes.
Trump,
Yes.
Motion to approve, carried unanimous. 3.2, April 6th, 2023, special session.
Move to approve with the addition of adding the reason for doing the tax levy vote again. Second.
Motion by Rich with amendment. Second by Jeff with amendment. Any council discussion? Public comment? Penny?
Houston,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Humbert,
Yes.
Trump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approve with amendment carried unanimously. 4.0 public hearings. 4.1 public hearing to rezone the property located at 108 South Davis Street from C1 Central Commercial to C2 Arterial Commercial. Item 1, at this time, I will open the public hearing. Proceed to item 2, the proceedings. This is where the public can offer up to you.
Hi, Mike, want to wait? Davis, we're just trying to rezone our building. So we can, mainly so we can put metal siding on it. We've tried to go the other route for 5 months and it's kind of getting hung up in all kinds of stuff. So we thought we'd try this route. Does anybody have any questions for me about it? All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks. Have you received any comments?
I have not.
we have not. issued any.
Penny, this was approved by the planning and zoning board
It is.
unanimously.
Yes, it is their recommendation to rezone.
Can I just ask what, I don't know what your plan A, what was your, you said your original route, what was that? What was your original route? Just,
Trying to change the entire code for Anamosa for that
Oh.
for the whole town. I think mainly there were a few people at the meeting and they all wanted to get rid of the ordinance altogether for hanging metal siding. So we were trying to do that, and I think it may be at the attorney's. Yeah. So.
Okay.
We had all the tin we took that tin off the prior building. So we had that tin stacked there for 5 months, so.
I mean, I'll just add, I think it's something we need to look at, maybe specifically in the commercial, because if you're holding back people from, I mean, that's a much nicer looking building. And if it's holding people back from doing that, especially in the commercial area, I think we need to do that, because if they're not improving their building just because the code says they can't, I think that's a problem. So I think specifically for commercial, we should look at that. And maybe you talked about it last meeting. I was gone last meeting, but
Well, it really needs to probably go to planning and zoning
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we would
yeah.
be removed from that
but
discussion.
What
But-
you've done so far, aligning with current ordinances and what we can see for future certainly is eye appealing. Like
Yeah.
in comparison to what was there.
Yeah, if you had seen it prior, it was a shack.
It was.
Yeah.
So,
You even landscaped. It looks really nice.
we're trying. Thanks.
There's no other comment. I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Alan. Council discussion. Penny, will you please conduct a roll vote?
Yes, Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
yes.
Calbert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Motion to approve closing public hearing carried unanimously. 4.2 ordinance, first reading. To rezone the property located at 108 South Davis Street from C1 Central Commercial to C2 Arterial Commercial.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Jeff. Any other discussion? Any public comment? Penny?
Calbert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout.
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. At this time, this is only the first reading. There will be 2 additional readings at separate meetings unless the council waives any of those. 4.3, public hearing. Agreeing to apply for financial assistance with the USDA Rural Development Office. Item 1, I will open the public hearing. There's no public comment. I will ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to
close the public
Second.
Motion by Alan, second by Rich. Council discussion. Benny, please.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Calbert,
Yes. Motion to close public hearing carried unanimously. 4.4, resolution 2023-28. Agreeing to apply for financial assistance with the USDA Rural Development to finance a portion of the police department renovation project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Allen. Council discussion. Public comment? Benny?
Stout,
Yes.
Calbert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 5.0 old business. 5.1 project status update, Anamosa Police Station renovation project.
This one is just the document that was provided. There was no other information, other than the walkthrough with the architect was, the date of this, so it was on the 4th. The architect did not have any, complaints or issues that he brought up, but everything, looked good. And then you can just see from the bullet pointed list here, kind of what all is accomplished, has been accomplished, through this week or this period. I can say this doesn't do it justice. It really, once you start getting the walls up and, things like that, it really changes the way it looks. So, again, anytime anybody wants to go and check it out, I would be more than happy to go down there with you. It's really coming too. So
So are they pretty much on schedule?
they are, yes.
They're very nice when you go in to look around too.
I imagine, you know, if there's anyone remote with the architect.
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. These progress reports, they do come weekly or bi-weekly, and this is just an extension. The main thing I wanted to point out here was that the architect was on site and, did do an inspection of what has been done to date.
Refreshing to hear. Thanks, Jeremiah. 5.2, project status update, HR Green.
Good evening, everyone. Andrew Marsh with HR Green, Cedar Rapids. Here this evening to give an update on our projects that's in your council packet and here to answer any questions that you might have. I'm happy to do that at this time. And we do have a special treat for you a little bit later in the agenda. We have more discussion of sidewalks for you in store.
So within the Third Street sidewalk listing that you have,
Yep.
also states school walking survey with help from the city.
Yep.
Have you been in contact, or is that something that's still on the horizon yet?
I don't want to steal the thunder of my
Okay.
coworker for later.
We'll wait
That'll
for
just whet
later to hear
everybody's
the boom.
appetite.
Also, do you have any questions for Andrew? Well, thanks for that detailed.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Andrew.
5.3, review and approval. Pay request from Jones County Economic Development in the amount of $3,750 for fourth quarter investment.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Brooke. Council discussion. Public comment. Penny?
Gombert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout.
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 5.4, review and approval. Pay request from HR Green in the amount of $52,840 for Cedar and Huber Street reconstruction and utility improvements from Ford Street to Main Street.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Alan, second by Rich. Also discussion. Public comment. Penny, please.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Gombert,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 5.5, review and approval. Pay request from HR Green in the amount of $86 for GIS services renewal.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Teresa. Council discussion. is that annual?
Yes.
It is. Thanks. Public comment? Penny?
Zumba,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 5.6, review and approval. Pay request from Martin Garner Architecture in the amount of $1,512.78 for the Anamosa Police Station renovation
Move
project.
to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Jeff. Council discussion. Public comment. Penny?
Tukin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 5.7, review and approval. Pay request from Martin Garner Architecture in the amount of $36,425 for the downtown revitalization project phase number 2.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Rich. Council discussion. Public comment. Penny, please.
Zumba,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 5.8, review and approval. Pay request from AEC Contracting in the amount of $25,221.60 for the Housing Rehabilitation Program, 806 South Main Street.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Alan. Council discussion. Public comment. Penny?
Tukin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 5.9, review and approval. Pay request from AEC Contracting in the amount of $9,211.50 for the Housing Rehabilitation Program, 503 East Cedar Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
Who made the motion? Jeff, thanks. Motion by Jeff, second by Alan. Council discussion. Public comment. Penny, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 5.10, review and approval. Pay request from Origin Design in the amount of $6,193.36 for the Stallion Creek Waterway Improvement Project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Council discussion. Public comment. Penny?
Lambert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 5.11, review and approval. Pay application number 4 from Dave's Complete Construction in the amount of $164,859.13 for the police department renovation project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alan, second by Kay. Council discussion. Public comment. Penny, please.
Stout,
Yes.
Schaumburg,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 5.12, review and approval. Pay request from WHKS in the amount of $19,559 for the wastewater treatment facility improvements, final design.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Council discussion? Public comment? Penny?
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Schaumburg,
Yes. Motion to approve carried unanimously. 5.13, review and approval. Pay request from Snyder and Associates in the amount of $9,500 for the supplemental agreement for additional services number 2 pertaining to the wastewater treatment facility improvements.
Move to approve.
Motion by Kay, second by Brooke. Council discussion. Public comment. Benny, please.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Schaumburg,
Yes. Motion to approve carried unanimously. 5.14, review and approval. Pay request from Snyder and Associates in the amount of $5,702 for the wastewater treatment facility flow equalization basin.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Alan. Council discussion. Public comment. Benny.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Schaumburg,
Yes. Motion to approve carried unanimously. 5.15, review and approval. Pay request from Snyder and Associates in the amount of $10,412 for the Highway 151 grade separation and roundabout. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alan, second by Rich. Council discussion. Public comment. Penny, please.
Schaumburg,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. Jeremiah, there's quite a few pay requests.
There is.
The individual projects, I know we briefly mentioned at the last meeting, or maybe it was the prior. Some type of tally of where these project costs are at. So we know if we're sneaking up on that target dollar. Or if we've already, we exceeded, or we still have a lot of wiggle. Has there been any progress?
I have not, I can certainly do that, though. I'm not sure if something started, but I'll look into that.
I thought we were going to do that prior to you.
Sure.
But I don't.
Steve Agnes, Utility Superintendent, excuse me. The last 3 that you just approved, we haven't even bid the project out yet. It's still all design work.
Okay.
So
Thanks, Steve. 5.16, resolution 2023-27, ratifying the collective bargaining tentative agreement with Teamsters Local 238.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Rich. Council discussion? Public comment? Benny?
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Humbert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 6.0 new business. 6.1 resolution 2023-25. Directing staff to calculate the interest due on a mortgage balance owed and authorizing acceptance of payment of the full balance plus calculated interest on the property located at 104.5 East Main Street.
Move to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion by Kay, second by Rich. Council discussion?
So there's been no payments ever received on this.
We have not received any payments for this.
Do you know how it got brought to our attention? Just the attorney, the owner's attorney?
Yes, it's, they were interested in the sale and wanted the written payoff statement, so we went to work looking for any of those records so we could get a more accurate calculation and, discovered that there were none at that point.
Well, Rod, you may have to help me out here, but
I was just gonna ask you the same.
wasn't there a point where we used some LMI money because she was going for some kind of grant money and we had to equal or do something, and it might have been, the loan might have been forgiven. I can't
I
remember.
can't remember, but you're right. I think
There was something that was done.
It wasn't, it was a two-tier loan. City, and the individual, the owner, to receive additional LMI funding.
Or something, yeah.
Did that even happen? Well, that's the question I was gonna ask Rich is what he remembered and.
I just remember
We
I think we used about 7,000, maybe the cost of the property. And maybe even forgave it. But we may have to go back and do some searching for that, because that's been a while ago.
Yeah, this was 2018. 17.
Started out
17.
17, yeah.
I thought one of the resolutions had an 18 date though.
Yeah, that's what I thought I had seen. Yeah,
But
this
if it-
promissory note is dated August of 18.
Only thing would be if it was forgiven if there was stipulations to go back and see if those were in fact met before, you know.
I don't think, Rich, any of the terms of that whole contract or discussion. I don't know if they were ever met.
Yeah, I don't know if they were met, but I don't know that there was. We'd have to go back and dig those up before we can probably proceed fully.
Is there some urgency with the journal?
Well, there is on their part. We have been contacted numerous times. They wanted us just to give the approval and get the statement issued to them two weeks ago, so they could close on this sale. I advised this was something that would have to go before council either way. They reluctantly agreed to that, but so we kind of drafted up this. I contacted our attorney just to ask him about, can we just write this resolution essentially directing city hall staff to figure the 12% and keep moving because they want to close soon. And he said that would be fine, but if there's some additional circumstances, we may need to look into that.
And what I would say at this point is go ahead and do the calculations and have them provide us with a copy of any of those agreements, because they should have them. If they can't provide them, follow through with what you come up with your calculations.
Penny, did we ask? I thought we inquired about that and they were not able to come up with anything.
Oh, so we
Yeah.
had to stipulate, like we had what was supposed to happen for the forgiveness and they couldn't provide it.
We didn't ask specifically for forgiveness. We checked our records at City Hall to see if there was any payments made or any interest
Oh.
paid on it and could not come up with anything. So we asked the other party to verify what payments had or had not been made. And that was when they informed us that they did not have any documentation to show that. So it's essentially the ball was back in our court and on us to make that determination.
So it sounds like they defaulted on their.
I can't say that for certain, but we just
Yeah.
did not get any documentation provided to us.
I mean, you could give them a rough payoff. I mean, and until we dig into it, if they haven't rough idea. I mean, roughly it's like 12% at $300 a month at it's about 13.5. I mean, what I came up with. But
Yeah, and
check that.
the reason the wording is this way on this resolution is because when we did contact the city attorney and just said, we need to ask the council how we should proceed. The attorney essentially advised it's the prior resolution, which is included in here along with the documentation, already specifies the terms. We just need to write it up for that. But again, if there's other extenuating circumstances, we may need to look into that too.
Cause I know that after this loan was done, there was another piece that happened. I don't know if it's 6 months, a year later. But there was another piece because she was looking at getting some grant money, which then in turn we had to do either some forgiveness or something. So
Like the second phase that we opted to forgive and not this first portion.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, or it could have been, there was more than one building or more than one building involved.
There's
not
like
in this.
there's like
This was
3 owners
only
of that
one
building.
one and a half.
I
This-
know, but then didn't she do another building too?
Well, she did, but that was not a part of this
Okay,
process.
okay.
So the balance that is listed here with all the fees is $10,899.47. That is what the 12% will be applied to. Well, we have a motion by Kay, second by Rich. And I guess unless you want to read it back, Penny, I believe the motion was to be moved forward with this to receive the 10,899.47 with the 12% applied to it. Unless documentation we can get our hands on it to state otherwise. Is that correct in my assumption of the motion and the second?
Meaning if the seller, unless the seller can provide that documentation that number plus interest is due to pay off.
There's an objection to that on the second party's part, then I would think they would bring it to City Hall or to the city attorney. But maybe it's a good idea if they do that it does find its way to the city attorney as well. Just talking out loud there. Not giving any direction. Further council discussion? Thought you were gonna say something, Alan.
I decided not to.
Public comment. Penny, would you conduct the roll vote, please?
Yes. Delbert,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 6.2, resolution 2023-26. Change and authorize representative to file applications for federal, state assistance.
Nothing major here. They reached out to City Hall, advised that they had been informed of the change. Brandon is current. There's no change there. This is just adding me to that so I can fill out these applications as well when necessary.
Move to approve.
Second,
Motion by Rich, I did not catch it. Second.
my Teresa.
Teresa. Thank you. Again, motion by Rich, second by Teresa. Further council discussion? Public comment? Penny?
Smith,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Stoneberg,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 6.3, discussion and possible action. Lions Club Flag Program, Dean Eilers.
I'll let him do the explaining. They reached out to me a few weeks ago and we discussed kind of what their intent was. Penny and I reviewed some of the zoning ordinances pertaining to this. And I guess what we came up with, if we're understanding correctly, this would probably constitute an accessory structure in the zoning ordinance. Therefore, the setback requirements don't apply. It doesn't have to meet any certain measurements for that. However, if any accessory structure is going to be placed in the city's right of way, then it would require the council's approval. So I had a few questions, but I think they could probably describe it a little bit better than maybe what my understanding of it is.
Before you start, Dean, your support team can come up if they prefer.
Okay,
Not just a one person podium, I guess.
yeah. I'm Dean Eilers, 402 South Booth, and I'm the president of the Anamosa Lions Club.
And I'm Roger Good, resident of 609 East First Street and vice president of Lions Club.
Basically, I've got the handout there for the Lions Club flag program. We're gonna be placing a flag in the yards of the people that sign up. And what we're asking is to be put this stake like 2 feet or 3 feet just off the curb, so they're very visible for the flags over Anamosa. This will be buried and be below the grass line, and you'll never see it. But we, as I talked to the city administrator, we need you to don't get her to your blessing. And these flags are only up 5 times a year. We go out, put them up 2 to 3 days before the holiday, 2 to 3 days after the holiday's over, we come through and take them down.
But during that time, you still leave the stake in the ground or are you taking
They
it?
stay in there all
Okay.
year.
So once you do all the locates and everything, you're
Yep.
good.
Yep,
Just
Okay.
just as people over the year, you'll have yours so many up front, and if people sign up year to year, you'll just have those extras to basically do the locates for and to put that in. Okay.
yes.
When you say you take them down, you take the pole down, but there's a unit in the ground that you
Yeah,
mount it
that
into.
stays in.
Okay,
There's a 10-foot pole that slides into this, and then when we take the flag out, then we'll put a cap in this, and so it can be either located, doesn't get any debris in it or anything like that.
okay.
Yeah, I know Macoka has done the same thing.
Yeah.
So not sure how they handled it from the city perspective, but
Sounds like a good program for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other clubs that have done it have had very good success, and we're a small club, and so makes a lot of sense for us to do it, and it'll look nice in the town. And we have, right now, we're at about probably 50 people that have signed up. I know Tipton, I think they're about 500 flags right now a year that they put out.
It'd be an
Yeah,
impressive
so we
sight
expect it to
see.
grow.
Yes. So,
So are you intending just for like residential? Cause in the downtown, you wouldn't really have a way to put it in. It'd be
Yeah.
just residential.
yeah. So,
And you're responsible for, in a sense, all of the project at the individual residences.
yes.
Yes.
Locates, insertion of the
Yep.
permanent stake. Placing of the flag and removing,
Yep.
storage of the flag, replacement of any.
Yep.
Yep.
We charge $50 a year.
And you said, what, 5 times a year? What times were you doing? those?
Memorial Day, Flag Day, 4th of July, Labor Day,
Yep. And then veterans.
Veterans Day.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion to approve the program.
I'll second that.
Motion by Rich, second by Alan. Steve Shane. Just ask you a quick question. Are you in support of this? Let's see 2 thumbs up for public's information. Thanks, guys.
Now, question for them. I know, I think Tipton puts a little white dot on the curb. In front of it. That can be a problem. Okay.
Make it easy to locate, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, just a little white paint dot, and easy to locate.
Rich Allen, you still good with that within your
Yep.
motion?
I'm
All
sorry.
Hearing, does the council have any other questions or comments? Does the public have any questions or comments? Benny, would you please conduct a roll vote?
Smith,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Calbert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Brumbaugh.
Yes.
Motion to approve the Lions Club flag program carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dean and Roger, thank you for coming before us this evening with this. Good luck with it. I think it's just another one of those added flair to bring a community together and give it a little extra.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes. Thank you again.
6.4, discussion of possible action, 3rd Street sidewalk project work session, HR Green.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jeremy Kemmer with HR Green. I've been before you before talking about this thing. I've got a quick something to hand out. So it says 3rd Street sidewalk. This is actually about both sidewalk projects. I'd like to discuss. And I forgot to bring you one.
Don't need one.
Thank you.
I'm going to start with 3rd Street since that's the exciting one that's a little bit easier to get your head around. We're talking about the proposed sidewalk extension along 3rd Street from the trailhead at Shaw all the way out to by the Walmart to get, originally the idea was conceived when Beth was still here to connect the community to the schools and the Walmart and the regional health center and make sure that it was a safe, walkable, like major roadway through town. There's a definitive lack of sidewalk access through there or places for kids to cross if they're getting to and from school. So that was the concept. We submitted a concept early last year about this, and the plan was to apply for grant funding in the fall. Unfortunately, the RPA 10 that you guys are working with that we would apply for the grant with is not quite prepared to deal with the IIJA funding package that came from the federal government. The state of Iowa is still kind of working through how they want to administer the funds that would normally go into the Transportation Assistance Program or TAP. And so we were looking at kind of a two-pronged funding approach for this. The TAP grants cover two different things. There's safe routes to school and scenic byways. Third Street happens to both be a scenic byway by state law. They've already identified it as a major corridor that connects to a lot of nice, lovely Iowa scenery. So they would be interested in improving it for that reason. But it's also proximate to several schools. I mean, there's Cherry right up there, but the criteria for safe routes is actually a half mile from a school, which is every school in town. So we think that you have a very good application. We've worked to get things set up, but there's a few things we'd like to button up to make sure that once applications open again, they normally are due in December. I reached out to the coordinator at the RPA just again today to see if anything's changed. As far as I know, it has not. So once they open up, hopefully we can just hit go. But in order to make things really nice, there are two things that we want the council to do. And one of them is to set a public meeting in about 2 weeks to invite public comments so that they are engaged as part of this process. It always looks good on grant applications when the people can come out and say that they really are in support of this or what would make it even better, so that we have their input and buy off. The second item, we talked about that walking survey. One of the things that the grant application requires is that we need to involve the local schools if we are going to apply for safe routes. They don't want to give safe routes funding to schools that don't have kids walking to school or would never walk to school. So if that's not the kind of environment we're working in, they don't want you to waste their money. So basically, we just need to give out surveys at each of the schools and, just hand them out to all the kids. They take it home to their parents. The parents spend 5 minutes checking some boxes. Yes, no, yes, my kid walks to school, or yes, I would let my kid walk to school if there was a safe route. No, I don't let them walk to school because I don't think it's safe right now. It's just a very simple questionnaire that there's a standard form on the state's website. Used to be able to do it online, but the state cut funding to that program about 2-3 years back. So we have to go back to paper forms. And I recommend submitting those surveys to all the schools in town because, as I said, every single one is within a half mile of this project. So we really want to sell this to the grant committee, say, hey, not only do we have one right there, but we've got all of these other schools that think that walking to school is important. So that's why we need to do that step. So those are the two action items for 3rd Street. Do we have any questions on that?
Do daycares count?
No.
About other school employees?
I suppose they're welcome to submit their own walking surveys, but it's more targeted for the parents of children that currently attend.
I only asked because I did field a call this last week from an employee, one of the faculty there, that just wanted to make sure that we were aware that they saw kids walking on the street and thought that it was very important that we had sidewalks. So
that's really good. A history of public comments, we can put that in the grant application as well.
I received a very similar call.
Yeah, I think it's a great project and it should go smoothly, I hope, as soon as that application opens up again. All right. The other thing I wanted to talk about has to do with the handout that we have here. And so this relates to the sidewalk improvement program. Last spring, we talked about starting up a sidewalk improvement program for the city to work on non-compliant sidewalk ramps like those right out over there, or areas where there are distressed portions of sidewalk, areas where it's heaving, cracked, broken, and not to community standards. And so as it hasn't historically been done in the community, we wanted to get things going on the right foot, come up with a plan to address problems and make sure that it can go year after year after year, and leverage some of the work that we've already been doing in the community with the GIS programs that we've been putting together. So going through, one of the first things we want to make sure is that the actions that are taken part of this, particularly because sidewalk is typically assessed to the adjacent property owner. Sidewalk maintenance, historically in Iowa, is the responsibility of the adjacent property owner. And so if the council deems it appropriate, sidewalk repairs would be the responsibility of the adjacent property owner. And that is the case according to your code. I have a copy of some ordinances that are within the code that we might want to tweak a little bit to make sure we're on the up and up moving forward and this works efficiently. So one of the first things that we found, section 137.01, the city of Anamosa has had their own standards for sidewalks and roadway grades, which do not meet the current state of practice. They were established in the 1960s and haven't been updated since. And we don't necessarily think that that is good practice because SUDAS exists, the statewide urban design and specifications guidelines, kind of take care of that for you. So in order to take the burden off of council to adjust all of your standards and go through with a fine tooth comb to update all of those things, we would recommend that you point to SUDAS, PROAG, and the American Disabilities Act. Say, follow the state and national standards for sidewalk. Don't necessarily have to go through and edit all of your own standards or create them from scratch. So that's one thing for the council to consider. I'm not asking you to take any action right now. These are things that I want to discuss with you here, and then review with your lawyers and maybe turn into a motion in the near future. So that's the first item in there. The second item, 140.04, this, no changes. This is just pointing out you already are authorized to assess the value of a sidewalk repair to the adjacent property owners, and you can require property owners to repair their sidewalks. Currently, the next one, 140.05, the one right after that in your ordinances, requires that the council approve every single letter that goes out requesting the repairs. And that doesn't seem very efficient. And so we would recommend a small update, change that from council to a city representative, that your city administrator can put together the letters and just mail them out, and not every single sidewalk repair needs to be approved by the council. So again, just making sure that this runs smoothly and you don't have to approve, 100 sidewalk repair notices before they go out, right? 140.07, currently there is a permit required, but we just want to have a discussion here about whether or not the permit for doing work in the right of way should still be required for work that is mandated by the city. We think it's a good practice to still require the permit so that you have a record that they got the letter, that they did the work, and invited city staff to come out and inspect the work and then sign off that it was completed to the city standards. So having the permit is still good, but maybe as a sign of goodwill, don't charge the fee that is normally associated with that permit. Again, because you'd be sending them a letter that says, hey, you have to fix your sidewalk. Now also pay us a fee to apply to fix your sidewalk. So just something to consider. And then 140.08 is coming back to sidewalk standards. And we would like to adjust that again. If your sidewalk standards and your repair policy lives within your code, anytime that you wish to change the official stance on what constitutes a required repair would have to go to council. And so what most communities do is that they have an official sidewalk policy that exists and is accessible at City Hall or on the city's website. So that when you send out those notices and it says, which we have a draft notice on the next page that you can look at, and that has kind of some check boxes that says the reasons why the property owner is required to repair their sidewalk. And so those items would be held within the policy. So that 1/2 inch lift between two panels, that lifts in the policy. That way, if city staff determines that 1/2 inch is either too much or too little, it doesn't necessarily need to come back to council to fix that. They can just submit a staff report that, hey, we want to change it to 1 inch. And you don't need to go through a whole hearing process to update your entire code about this one little thing. So officially adopting a policy and saying we are doing a policy and where you can find it is a good state of practice. And then keeping that as a city document, probably to be controlled by Shane over here or the city administrator, whoever. So those are our recommendations for 4 small changes to the code of ordinances of the city of Anamosa, just so that this program works to its utmost efficiency and we don't have to overly involve council in every single decision. Do you have any questions on that page? Okay. I talked about the draft sidewalk repair. I don't really want to spend a lot of time on this. This is pretty straightforward form letter. The idea is that we just check the box and mail it out. We would help support the city in this process. The idea is that we will add another service to the GIS thing for no additional cost. It's part of this to set it up. So as part of the regular GIS services that we are using, similar to what you use for, shooting water valves and hydrants and stuff, the CSO could walk around and take pictures and check which violations are triggering the need for sidewalk repair using a phone or a tablet app. And that would go in the city's GIS system. And then we can use that to generate the list of properties that need to be mailed and what the deficiencies are. So that's the process that we're proposing and where the addresses will come from. When I talked with Beth way back when we were starting this, it sounded like the city had a pretty good mailing system, way to generate envelopes and stamps and stuff so that you could handle it. Yeah, you got it. You're excited for all of these? All right. So then the last 3 pages are the proposed policy that we sent to the city last summer and what we think an effective sidewalk repair policy looks like for the city of Anamosa. So section 1 talks about the purpose. In order to maintain sidewalks that are accessible and safe for all users, this policy establishes the inspection process and outlines the responsibility of property owners under this policy. Section 2 is reiterating the property owner's responsibility of dealing with those repairs and referring them to where in the code of ordinances that this already exists. That this isn't a new rule. This is just one that the city is now enforcing. And then how much time they have to take action. In this case, we say about 90 days of receiving the notice. They need to at least apply for the permit. Otherwise, the city will assume that they need to fix it and find a contractor to do it for them. And then it will be assessed to their next tax bill. The inspection process is outlined here. This is something that I would invite comment from the council right now. We're proposing to dividing Anamosa into roughly 5 sections and inspecting one section at a time. Doing the entire city in one go is probably not effective. That would be a lot of sidewalk to fix, a lot of ramps to repair in a single year. In fact, even 1/5 of the city might be a little bit much. We'll have to see after the first inspection process goes through how much it starts looking like cost wise, how bad the sidewalks are. We won't know until it's actually inspected. And once we know how much we're willing to bite off, maybe that number gets smaller. But the idea is that you don't inspect the entire city and then ask 5 property owners to fix it. And then everything changes and you re-inspect the entire city and then you pick another group of property owners and then it's out of date. We don't want to waste the CSO's time. So let's use them wisely and inspect the right amount for what can be done in a given year or construction season. And then we recommended second Monday of April, get started once the weather is usually nice. And then once that's wrapped up, they'll have that 90 days and we can get a contractor in and finish everything within the same, we can do the design over winter and bid it in the following spring. So basically anything that is inspected this year will be bid for a project in the following spring. Does that make sense? So they have all of summer to do it themselves or hire a contractor. And then if they don't, then you guys contact us or another design firm and say, okay, put together some sidewalk plans and help us bid this. And then in the spring, contract come out, repair the previous year's stuff, and we do a new inspection. So you're always rolling forward on the next project. So that's the proposed inspection process. Again, that's negotiable dates and how many zones we break it up into. Again, I would invite any feedback you have. The next part, section 4, is the important one. I am going to go through all of section 4 here, and these are the criteria based on the American Disabilities Act and the Public Right-of-Way accessibility guidelines, as well as any state codes that are relevant to Anamosa. We've also referred to several other communities in Eastern Iowa to see what they're doing, try and keep you in line with, the state of practice within Iowa. So the first criteria is that displacement they were talking about, a 1/2 inch difference between two panels. If it's more than that, that becomes a trip hazard, makes it hard for people in wheelchairs to get over that hump. So we would ask that they correct that. Depending on how quickly we want the inspection done, that could be increased to something more dramatic like 1 inch, but 1/2 inch is the preferred level. But, to keep the CSO moving efficiently, sometimes it's nice to be able to just eyeball it, but 1/2 inch gets to the point where he might need to carry a yardstick or something. Second criteria, horizontal gap of more than 2 inches. Again, becomes a trip hazard, makes it hard for somebody in a wheelchair to cross over that, the wheels get stuck. This could be a separation at a joint. This could be a big crack. Could be a missing chunk of the sidewalk panel is gone. This will probably have to be measured and photographed in the field to confirm. Third item is a depression of a raise or depression of more than 3 inches across an 8 to 10 foot span. So imagine about 3 sidewalk panels. If you notice a dip or like a raise, typically because of a tree root or because there was a roof drain that went underneath there that failed, or a sewer service has a leak or something, you might see random dips or bumps because of the tree roots. Those, again, trip hazards, hard to get over if you have a wheelchair, and it's very noticeable what's in those short spans when it's over just a few panels and you can see with the naked eye that bump or that sag. That's when we want to identify those. The next one is more of just a good repair thing, because it's probably going to result in more repairs down the line if you don't address it. And it is just noting panels that are broken into 4 or more pieces. It's at least 2 cracks. Once it starts breaking up into pieces, it's probably going to break into more pieces. It's going to become a trip hazard, etc. Panel missing a chunk more than 4 inches in area. That's 2 inch by 2 inch. So, we're talking golf ball sized hole in the sidewalk. We would like that filled in. This doesn't necessarily mean they have to replace their entire sidewalk or even the entire panel. Just as long as they fill in that hole, that would be great. Pockmarked or spalled. This is a harder one to explain. By that, we're referring to when the material of the sidewalk was not very good when it was installed, or maybe it's getting old and it's just oxidized in a way that the little rocks that make up the concrete surface are starting to fall out. And so there's all these little divots across the top, and it kind of becomes rough in texture. That's not good from a walkability or safety perspective. Again, becomes a bit of a trip hazard. So if it starts to get too rough and torn up on the surface, we would like that to be replaced as well. The next one is, so you can kind of see that explained on the bullet point on the following page. Finally, we're talking about sidewalk slopes that do not meet ADA, SUDAS, or PROAG. These are defined by the federal government that sidewalk cross slopes cannot be greater than 2%. State of Iowa guidelines typically say aim for 1.5%, because we don't want to get anywhere near 2% because construction error, we don't want to run on 2.1% and have a lawyer come sue the city because you were over by a fraction of a percentage. So let's stay away from there, but we'll just put in 2% because that is the federal law. And then a run slope of, it says 8%. Technically, you can go up to 8.33%, which is 1 inch over 12 inches. So 1 inch per foot of travel. Now, this is subject to some caveats when it comes to federal law, is that if a run slope is longer than 20 feet, it doesn't matter. And you're always allowed to match the adjacent roadway. We have some steep roadways in town, and that might be an understatement. It may not be physically possible to put an 8% sidewalk next to some of these roadways that are 10, 15% in grade, at which point it's perfectly fine for that sidewalk to match the adjacent roadway. So, and we can, so we see 1 inch per 1 foot or the slope of the adjacent roadway, whichever is greater. The next section is not constructed of approved material. Sidewalks in Iowa are supposed to be concrete. You can't have asphalt, you can't have metal, you can't have glass, you can't have plastic. It's supposed to be concrete. I didn't make up the rules, and maybe the city would like to allow some of those things, but every once in a while you'll see somebody like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I had a little wooden landing at the bottom of my front stairs or something? And technically, no, you're not supposed to do that because it doesn't last the way that concrete does. There's some of those materials like plastic or asphalt might last, but those are not approved materials according to the state of Iowa. So.
Question for you on that. I'm just curious, if somebody's got a driveway that is asphalt that goes across where the sidewalk would be, how would they'd have to lay a sidewalk through the asphalt at that point, or what's your thoughts on that?
That comes down to engineering judgment. I know many communities that don't count the driveway as part of the sidewalk, and they kind of treat it like you would a roadway intersection. And so they count it at, but then you get into, all right, do you have to do a ramp down into each of the driveways or not? Do you need detectable warnings then? If I was designing it, I would probably do a concrete sidewalk through and bench it in there. That's how I would do it, but there's nothing saying you have to. You can do it as just the driveway material. That's fine. Same way, if it's a gravel driveway, it's fine to leave it as gravel. You don't have to pave the sidewalk through there. You treat it like you would a street crossing. That's the stance of the law there. And if you would like, I can clarify that in the sidewalk policy about whether or not how we treat driveways.
Yeah, I think clarifying that would be good.
Okay. All right. Any questions about the criterion that are involved here? Do you want to make any of those stricter, less strict feelings? I'm a project manager with it.
And are you selling the program managed it, or what exactly?
So we have a contract with the city to help start the program. And we will help administer it for at least the first year to get it kickstarted, and then the city will take over.
Part of the first payment is to administer it for the first year, and then Penny takes it over after that.
Basically, if the city's going to do inspections, city's going to send the notices. We already do the GIS services, so that'll hopefully carry through most of the administrative stuff in the middle. But we just want to make sure that we do the legal review and help put together the policy up front.
City council is going to have final approval on policy, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah. These are just my recommendations to be turned into ordinances and policies.
That recommendation pretty much change every sidewalk.
Question, where you say a half inch, you're talking between, so like on a new cut, I don't even know what You guys probably know what's a saw blade? I mean, if it's a brand new sidewalk and you have a cut.
Yeah,
what's
so
that?
yeah, we're talking between panels, from panel to panel. We're not talking at the bottom
Yeah,
of
I'm
the,
just saying for a baseline, like if you cut a brand new sidewalk, how wide's that cut?
that gap is less than a half inch.
I mean, the 16th or an 8th?
About a quarter inch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from a brand new sidewalk, you only have, that only gives
so-
you a quarter inch.
The half inch is vertical distance. The width is 2 inches.
Oh, I'm thinking the wrong way.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if where you have the
Mhm.
cut between.
Yeah.
Okay,
So you got a ways before you hit 2 inches.
so 2 inches between, but the half inch between.
Yeah,
I
it's
feel like that-
vertical. Yeah, so you don't want to have to take a step while you're walking down the sidewalk. I don't know about you. I've got
Mm.
some awful heaving in my neighborhood and I trip all the time when I'm not paying attention. That like those half-inch gaps sneak up on you. All right, section 5 is notice to repair. That's basically referring to those letters. We have the draft letter right before there. I have a section highlighted here because it is optional. A lot of communities will have the inspector, in this case, the CSO, spray paint the non-compliant panels while they are out there. We're already asking them to take pictures and notes in the app or tablet. So you will have a record that way. But for helping the property owner be compliant, sometimes it's really nice to say, all right, these 3 panels, this panel right here is cracked into 4 pieces. And so just marking it either in the corner or an arrow pointing, if you've got a range, arrows pointing that these 4 panels from here to here, that can be very helpful. I don't know if we want to make that an official part of this or not.
With that, I would, if we're talking repair, not so much, but if it's like a mud jacking where it's a
Mhm.
perfectly good square, if you could somehow use flags or, especially if you're mud jacket, keep the paint off there. Cause I have a newer driveway and another utility put paint right across my driveway. It's taken 5 years for it to come off. So.
I've got a lot of fiber going in my neighborhood. I've got lines galore
If it's one
across
that
my
just-
driveway.
So if
I
it was
get you.
one, if it was one that just needed mud jack, for example, maybe not paint on it, because if they're gonna keep it and raise it, then you're stuck. Basically,
Okay.
they're stuck with paint on their decent panel. It just needs mud jacked up.
We can specify washable paint. Hopefully
Or
they get
something,
to
yeah.
it before, or at least see it out there before it rains, but
Because whatever was using my driveway, I power washed it and it still didn't come off. So
yeah. All right. It's a good note. How does anybody else feel about spray painting while they're out there?
I think the whole sidewalk and the whole town is gonna be spray painted.
There's gonna be a lot, but there's a lot of repairs that need to be done.
Oh, I agree, yeah. I agree.
We could use assorted colors, so it'd be really pretty.
No, and that's why we want to, take off nice bite-sized pieces and, not try and do too much at once as well. So,
I guess another thought I have is, I mean, the ADA compliance is fine, but I feel like it's gonna be enough if it's just sidewalk squares to get repaired. I feel like if people have to do that and then dive into the ADA compliance, I feel like
Yeah.
that's gonna be an awful lot.
the ADA compliance for the property owner responsible portions should be pretty easy. I think I have it in here a little bit further in. Maybe I need to specify that here, but when we were first talking about this program with Jeremiah and Beth, the idea was that the city would be responsible for all of the curb ramps. So all of the complicated stuff at every corner where we have the ramps coming down, we have the detectable warnings at the bottom, we got the little flares coming up. That stuff, as well as the landings above there, are where ADA gets complicated and very finicky. And so requiring property owners to deal with that is perhaps not economical, because you might be requiring a lot of them to redo it over and over again. So the idea is that the city would pay for all of the sidewalk ramps, and the property owners are only responsible for the straight sections.
Okay, so here's an example. So somebody, I don't know, just a random
Mhm.
example, someone 5 years ago replaced their sidewalk. They're still in physically good order, but they don't have the ADA. You still would make them take it out or wait until it got to the point where it was in bad shape and have them do that. I guess it's not clear to me.
So I
on
guess,
that.
all right, two examples here. Example one, somebody lives on the corner, right?
Mhm.
And they've redone all the sidewalk in front of their house. And CSO's out there and they notice that the ramp on the corner is not ADA compliant.
But it's in basically new
Yeah.
condition. Okay.
They would flag that and that becomes city's responsibility because that is a ramp. And we don't want property owners to deal with the ramps because it's a whole big thing. Now, let's say that the straight sections
Mhm.
are not compliant because they're, 10 degrees sideways and the goal is 2%. That would be something that you flag because that is now a hazard and the city could be sued if somebody has an incident or problem accessing public right of way. So for your sake, while it's in good repair and it may not be a high priority, probably be noted as something to be done in the future. So. All right, I'll talk about section 6 here, repair by owner. This is assuming that the property owner that has been notified and in that 90-day window, they choose to not have the city hire the contractor for them and be assessed on their taxes. They would rather do it themselves or hire a contractor. We often recommend communities require their citizenry to hire a contractor because it means less work for city staff coming out to inspect it because the contractor is probably going to be more used to doing this kind of thing. But, people in Anamosa might be handy. Might be a lot of people that know how to lay some concrete and you feel comfortable doing that. So that's an option to whether or not to allow individual people or if you're going to require the citizenry to hire contractors. Here's again the reference to the permit fees that we discussed in the ordinances about whether or not the city wants to require permits and or fees. In this draft, we say the permit fees will be waived, but they still are required to apply for the permit. And reiterates that it needs to be inspected by city staff before it is approved as repaired. Sometimes in here we'll have, I have it in section 9 and I probably should make a reference to there is that what are acceptable repair methods? We don't want somebody just, going to Menards or Lowe's and buying some like asphalt sealant and just dumping it all over their sidewalk. And not really following the rules. We want them to pay attention to what is fixing the problem. And so, all right, option 1, remove the non-compliant panel and put it back. Option 2, mud jacking to correct vertical displacements, which might also address some of your horizontal displacement. You might have a contractor grind out non-compliant areas. So if there's a lip between two of them, sometimes they can come in with just a grinding saw and just grind off that ledge. So they don't have to replace the whole panel. They just need to smooth out that transition between them. And the other one is, all right, you've got a gap of more than 2 inches between 2 sidewalk panels. Can they just take out all the weeds and fill it in with some crack sealer? There's some basic stuff that you can buy at the hardware store that'll fill those gaps in. Same thing with the, small hole, just get the weeds out and fill it in and we should be fine to go. So those are the acceptable repair methods put forth in this policy. The section 8 that we skipped over is just reiterating, all right, what happens when the city does the repairs? So after 90 days of notice, the city will assume if they haven't heard from that property owner that they want the city to do it for them. And the city will do it the following year. The costs shall be assessed against the property for collection in the same manner as a property tax. This is from the code. Repairs made by the owner or owner's contractor that do not meet the requirements listed below shall be considered unrepaired and shall likewise be corrected by the city and assessed to the property owner. So if they did a real bad job, city staff comes out, inspects it and says, this doesn't meet our policy, you didn't fix the problem, or it doesn't meet ADA, we're going to fix it for you and still assess it to your taxes. So. Again, hoping that never happens. That would be a bad case. But we want to cover the city's bases here. Section 10 is requirements to be deemed repaired. This is again, where can they find the standards? This is what you really are shooting for the inspector to say, absolutely good to go. We don't need to talk about sidewalks anymore for a while. Any questions on sections 1 through 10? I'm giving you a lot of food for thought. I understand. All right. If no other comments on sections 1 through 10, I want to talk about some optional stuff that you don't have to do, but might be a good idea. And I'm going to assume that these don't need to be in here unless you really think they're good ideas and want to implement them. Item 1, community reporting. So some communities like Iowa City have local community apps that they can report nuisance violations to the city. There are other applications that exist out there. There are, complaint forms that cities will put on their websites to allow for community members, just going about their day, say, I noticed that there is a sidewalk that was really, really bad. And they might submit a picture and say, hey, can you add this to the sidewalk program or note it? Do you want to solicit that kind of feedback or shall we leave it to the professionals?
The owner of the bad slab sidewalk. I think it would be better if the city handled it. There's no sense starting a neighborhood war.
Fair.
By finding out that his neighbor turned him in. Suddenly his neighbor's dog dies because of it. And need I say more?
All right. Anybody else have thoughts on that?
I mean,
It makes a strong argument.
I guess it'd be a fine line, but like, say somebody falls and gets minorly or seriously hurt, if they fall and knock their teeth out or something, if it's that level, they probably would tell City Hall anyway, so.
Yeah, fair. All right, so we won't worry about community reporting.
So we leave the dead dog lie.
Yeah. All right. Another optional thing, cost assistance. So some communities, particularly those that have lower income populations, may have cost assistance programs or deferment. Will we assess properties that are Section 8? Will we assess properties that are identified as low income? Can property owners going through a hardship apply for a forbearance as part of this, saying that I can't pay it now? Can we, come up with another solution here? There are other ways, City of Cedar Rapids for a while had it so that they would pay 50% of the cost of sidewalk repair if the property owner volunteered to do it. If the property owner looked at their sidewalk and said, I'm out of compliance, I want to be a part of this year's program, the city would match 50% of the cost for them. I don't think that we'd necessarily have that money. That's why it's normally an assessment on the property tax, but it's just something to consider.
Well, I think it would be a good idea to have some type of a program to assist. I don't know exactly what at this point, but we need to probably think about coming up with some.
It would be nice if there was a way we could, incentivize the ones that, like you said, step forward and do it, and that we don't have to hound, instead of, the ones that don't do it, have to go through the process of assessing it and there's not hard costs, but there's soft costs, with staff and so the people that come forward and do it voluntarily. I don't know what that would look like, but
Be nice to come up with something. There are people in this town that have to make choices between buying groceries or paying some other bills that they can't afford. And there are some that would deserve the help, and there are some that are in that situation because they're just put themselves there for a stupid reason, but there are people out there that really do need the help. It's something we should probably discuss at some meetings. Make a point to resolve that as part of the situation. City Hall should know real well who the people are that really do need the help and those that don't.
isn't there, don't we have LMI money that's never been used that could possibly be used for that?
Would have to look into that. We just need to make sure that it is done in a fair. We have to have some sort of standard that would be fair and impartial, not based on what we would perceive as a person being deserving or not. We just have to make sure we hit those consistent standards, I guess, in making that decision.
That's what I was gonna suggest, Chief. When the city has to be fair and partial. You can't give one. You don't want to be accused of buddy system.
Nope, you don't.
So the verbiage and the text of this, if that's the route we go, needs to be clear.
It's gonna be pretty
The
tight.
parameters have to be in place, and it would be a good idea to have it probably drafted by an attorney. Just for the simple fact is, they're an expert in that. I would hope they get it right the first time. Again, right now, it's just in the narrative side of this. It's the discussion, being permanent, that will come at a later date. I would be in agreement with Chief. We really need to make sure that if we have something clearly defined with the parameters in place.
Well, we've got some time that we can reach out to other cities, see what their processes are. Doesn't mean we've got to follow their process, but we can at least get some other ideas. And then with that, we can maybe come up with, we need to decide amongst ourselves what we think we want to do. And move forward and then see how it falls into place. I mean, I think to give some incentive out there would help the project move faster. But it just depends on what we have available. I'm not sure we've got much LMI money to utilize at this point in time. So we may have to find some other grant money possibilities. I mean, there's probably some opportunities there that we haven't looked into that we may need to.
Might have to separate out some way to make some kind of a fund that could be just more money added to it as time goes on. And it just sets there for situations like that.
As far as criteria goes, what we will often see across other communities is that it'll be set on a percentage of the median household income for the area, or it'll be based on the state poverty threshold, or you can use other assistance programs as indicators, like if they're on food stamps, SNAP, or whatever. That might be a trigger. If the household already applies for other government assistance programs, that triggers your policy for sidewalk stuff. That's just for y'all to consider. So it's as those impartial things, it's either a yes or no, you know, what's the household income compared to our policy? What's the, you know, do they have other assistance programs in place for this household? Yes or no? Any other discussion on cost assistance? All right. Section 3 here. This policy is meant to kind of be just kind of an objective, straightforward. Here's the official city policy. And kind of the next two are just, do we want to explain the process and approval criteria in more plain language? You know, add a section after this. So like, here's a guide, you know, and it, you know, the CSO will come out and look at your sidewalk. Here's some pictures of some deficient sidewalks and, you know, the markings that they will make on your sidewalk. Here's a picture of the letter that you will receive in the mail. Here's how you go online and find the permit that you need to file with the city. Here's how long you have, you know, a plain text narrative walking them through the process. You don't have to do this, but it could be a helpful tool for community members as they are confronted with these letters in the mail for the first time and they want to understand the process a little bit more thoroughly.
There's something to be said about being user friendly. Sidewalks are a hot button topic for a lot of communities. Any way that you can ease the pain or you pointed out assistance with walking through this program might be advantageous. You'll hear about the negative of it. You won't probably hear much about the positive.
I live in Coralville and our sidewalk repair policy is literally just 2 pages full of pictures. It doesn't look anything so stuffy as just this list of criteria. I'm not sure it holds as much weight should they ever be you know, part of a lawsuit, but it is very easy to read. So that's kind of where I came up with that idea, where it's like, it's, you know, there's different approaches, you know, they came at it from a, you know, planning and community development perspective, less than an engineering perspective, which unfortunately is my mindset as an engineer. And then the final dot is just, do you want to add some fluff text at the beginning or end of this, explaining the goals and the potential value that the community receives from this program? You know, do you want a little bit up front to sell it, or do you just want this to exist as, this is a policy document that's updated as needed and it doesn't need to be anything more or less?
I don't know, I've always thought that if you can kind of verbalize the goal, it kind of helps people buy in. I mean, if you just put it plain stuffy, it's dry, they don't really buy in. It's something being forced, but if you kind of explain this is the goal, then you kind of have a little better chance of a buy-in.
Okay.
You want to be part of it. You want them to be part of it, not because of it. You get a lot of negative reactions to something they don't understand. So even my reading through this real quick in the beginning was like, wow, that is complicated. It needs to be simplified, I think. But cover it well enough that we don't have lawsuits.
I think that's everything I wanted to discuss here. We've got a few action items for updates to the policy that we've discussed tonight. I'll put together a revised version of this and send it over to Shane and Jeremiah for review. This may come back to you guys for final approval once we get everything else sorted, but The main action item here right now is just updating the code of ordinances to be, you know, work hand in hand with this sidewalk repair policy rather than against it. We want them to be aligned. So I recommend take those before your lawyer. If you need to do another work session to just, you know, finesse that, please do. But we would like to get the CSO inspecting, you know, any day now so that they have that full 90 days in an actual construction season to work on it this coming year. So we should be able to get started hopefully quite soon. And then once the ordinance is update, then this will be hopefully back on your desks to discuss the final version of the policy. Any final questions, comments, concerns?
I'll make sure I'm hearing you as far as action item with the city sidewalk, citywide sidewalk program there. You're looking that the city update their ordinances at this time or wait for your final draft?
I think the
of this?
ordinances can come first. And they probably should before we start adopting policies that aren't supported by the code. You don't want to have a policy that's sitting there and say, refer to the policy, and then they come back and say, my lawyer says I don't have to do it because the code says it needed to come from council or something.
All right, ask for just a minute here. I want to start to divide with Jeremiah on these. What I was asking Jeremiah is there's action items coming out of this citywide program as well as the Third Street. And those action items, as I have just here in some notes, we need a public hearing. This is Third Street, and involve the schools with surveys. As far as the citywide program, update our code of ordinances, which would require review by the city attorney. I didn't know if it would fall within that we could just make the motion to do these this evening as discussion and possible action on this agenda. Jeremiah is saying that we can, at this point, just request that these items be placed on the next agenda. It would not require a motion to do that. It was just the action coming out of this agenda item. That was what I was referring to, Jeremiah. Council, you're the decision makers. I guess you can take this whatever route you so choose at this time. If you want a motion, or just instruct Jeremiah to move forward with whatever action items.
Well, I would say at the next meeting to put the action items on the agenda for the next meeting would be the proper thing to do.
I agree. Well, we can't take it to a vote, but I'm getting the understanding by no head shakes, not going or going horizontal, that you're not in favor of that. So I guess there we have it. We'll place them on the agenda. Thank you. Thanks. Brings us to 7.0, city administrators report.
6.5.
6.5.
Oh, I'm sorry. We probably should review and approve some bills.
Yeah.
6.5, review and approval of current bills.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Alan. Does council have any discussion on the bills as they were submitted? to you. Any comment from the public on the bills that were posted? Penny, would you please conduct a roll vote for approval?
Stout,
Yes.
Albert,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Brumbaugh,
Yes.
Motion to pay bills as submitted, carried unanimously. 7.0 City Administrators Report.
I have nothing at this time.
Does council have any questions for Jeremiah? 8.0 Mayor and Council Reports. 8.1 Mayor's Report. I also have nothing at this time. 8.2 Council Reports. Hearing none. 9.0 Public comment for items not on the agenda.
Nancy Schaefer, 803 North Division Court. At the last meeting, I asked about the $33,000 payment to Black Hills Energy. First off, I would like to offer my sincere apologies to Robert. I was by no means questioning how you performed your job. I know those kind of things happen when you are excavating. It would be wonderful if we had X-ray vision, but we don't. So those things happen. But my frustration is with purchasing equipment like that. And something like this does happen. Does our insurance cover that?
Depends on the circumstances, but yes, it does in most cases. Again, have to meet the deductible, which is like close to what this was.
The 33,000.
Close, yes.
So every event, if we had another event like that, and it was 28,000, we still would be paying out of pocket.
We could potentially, yes.
So then my thinking goes, is this really a piece of equipment we should be having? Was it a wise decision to make that purchase? So, I don't think it was. I don't know how any of the rest of you feel, or if it's something that you should keep, or maybe you should put it on the market. Hope you think about that.
It does seem like a high deductible considering, you know, the large premium that's coming due, and to still have that much of a deductible.
Just while we're on that note, so our premiums did decrease by 42,000. And that, of course, it would have something to do with that. It's always a balance, and you brought up a good point. It's one of those things where if we continue to make these insurance claims, we're going to run into coverage problems. If we cover the cost, it's also expensive. So it is definitely something we have to balance.
Yeah, and you also need to look at the upkeep on a piece of equipment like that on an excavator. And so it's been purchased and you have somebody to run it, but you also are pulling people out of the department to be the ditch man and whatever. It isn't just one person running that. So you have to take that into account too, on how much is this piece of equipment really saving you in the long run? Well, thank you.
Any other public comments? 10.0 adjournment. This evening's meeting is adjourned. Thanks everyone for taking time to visit with us.